In today's video, I asked ChatGPT to give me a grounded challenge run idea, and it gave me the ant-only gear challenge. That means if it doesn't have any ant parts in it, I cannot use it. So that means I can only use the red ant, black ant, and fire ant armor pieces and weapons. Let's get into it. Just like every other grounded playthrough, we start off in the kids case, and then I went around and collected some basic resources, and then decided not to analyze anything at the research station because I'm stupid. Then I ran all the way over to the hedge and went inside this little hidden cave here and got my very first weapon, the rotten red ant club. I used my brand new weapon to kill a red worker ant, as I will need its parts for more weapons and armor later. Then I decided to kill the mites that are chewing the space of wires on the outside and inside. Then go ahead and make yourself a workbench and make the red ant helmet and knee guards. Once I did that, I activated the space and then went over to the red ant hill and killed a soldier, as I will need its parts for the red ant club and another chest piece. But I infiltrated their den and got the red ant hill burgle chip as well, meaning I was now able to craft a brand new red ant club and the red ant arm guards. I made my way to the oak lab and revived Burgle and gave him the chip I had just collected, and then on that chip was a fiber band efficiency upgrade which I collected. My next goal was to do the hedge lab, but before I did the hedge lab, I went ahead and activated the resource scanner, which would just help me later on in the run, and then now I infiltrated the hedge lab, grabbing all the password pieces, all 4 of them, and putting them into the computer and getting my first super chip and duper disc, and then climbing up the hedge a bit more to get the Broodmiller BLT, a boss I need to fight later on. I went back to Burgle once again and gave him the super chip I had just collected. Now, over near the sandbox, it was time for upgrades, so I killed some black worker ants to get their parts, and let me tell you, I killed a bunch of them, but I also needed to kill some soldier ants for their chompers, which I collected as well. Now it's time to the black ant lab, but then I forgot I needed bombs to enter the lab, so I said stuff it, so I then did this parkour trick and got some few goodies from this chest here, which I was not meant to get. But then this soldier ant came up here, so I took him out. Outside their nest, I made the black ant sword and black ant shovel, upgrades I would need. I then used this really easy grass plank bounce technique to get into the upper yard without using a bomb to break the entrance. I went ahead and spent so long killing this ladybird larva just for tough gunk, and it didn't give me any tough gunk in the end, so what a waste of time that was. But tis no matter, I used my black ant shovel to get some buried treasure and got some crow feather pieces which I would need later for the tier 3 termite axe. I went ahead and watched this black ox beetle get absolutely mauled by some ladybird larva and this all-weaver spider, so I finished him off at the end and got a singular part. Thanks game, but I got the tough gunk I needed. Then I went and killed a termite soldier, so I need 2 chompers for a termite axe, which I then collected. Then need 1 more feather piece, so I got some more buried treasure and then made the termite axe, as well as getting the tier 2 spicy safety mutation. And then went ahead and killed some dust mites for their fuzz to get some more armor later on. And then I used my tier 3 axe to farm up myself some pupa, which I would need for the black ox hammer. Speaking of black ox, I took out you didn't see that. Speaking of black ox, I took out another black ox Okay, speaking of black ox beetles, I took out another one, got 1 horn, 2 parts, and more tough gunk. Sadly, I was missing 1 black ox part, so I let some ticks take out this 1 black ox beetle while I just sit there and watched, and then I went past, looted its corpse, getting the black ox parts I needed. And then went ahead and crafted up the black ox hammer, and with that black ox hammer, I then got 5 milk molars from this milk molar bottle here. I used those milk molars to get my max active mutations, healing, and max health. My next upgrade was the fire ant here, so I got ladybird larva inside their cave to do the work for me once again. And once she died, I had no way out, and I just got overrun by so many fire ants, and I sadly died. But it was worth it because I had all the fire ant parts I needed. Then I went around and collected some candies and upgrade materials for later on. Inside this dirty ashtray, I found some toenails, so I broke them and collected them, as everyone should, right? Then I went over to the doormat and collected the lint for more upgrade for the fire ant gear, and then I got some mint shards which I need for the infected Broodmiller boss fight, as well as collecting some salt from this fork here, and then finally getting some charcoal chunks which I need for the oven to create the boss item summonables. Speaking of the oven, I also need some bombardier parts and boiling glands. I then set up camp on top of this little log here and then took a nap, a well-needed rest. And the next morning I crafted the entire fire ant set and made myself the fire ant shield, meaning I was fully kitted out now. Then I upgraded my gear and weapons just a little bit to add some more protection and damage. And then with the gum nugget in my pocket, I then inhaled a bunch of toxic fumes all the way to the haze and plugged the haze canister, meaning I was now able to go into the haze without dying. I then went ahead and got some infected wheels to blast open the haze door for me, and inside was the infected ladybug, a very weak boss. And inside the lab I got the second duper disc, super chip, and a few bombs which I need for the black ant lab. Speaking of the black ant lab, I used that bomb to crack open the rock which I previously didn't blast open. Then I granted access to zone A and B of the lab. Then I mashed my hand on this keyboard not knowing what would happen, and I somehow got into a boss fight. This assistant manager summons in little robots, but it wasn't too challenging, so I just killed him pretty much instantly and took his keycard. Hooray for me. And I collected my final super chip. That's what you think. I still got 1 more lab to go. And then backtracked and made my way into the sandbox, and I killed this pit antlion, and then inside the antlion's little den was a bunch of salt mines, and then I used the assistant manager keycard as well to get the sandbox chip, which I would need for later on. In the pond, I killed some creatures as I'll need their parts for smoothies because I couldn't make myself a gill tube. Then went back to Burgle and gave him the auxiliary chips and the super chips that I recently collected. I decided the black ant sword would be my main weapon, so I duplicated 4 of them to have 1 of each element. Then I created the liquid gills and fluid flippers smoothies. And just so you know, I can use any smoothie that doesn't include red ant pellets, just not gear and weapons, if that makes anything clear. With the smoothies I've drunken and the mutation, I was able to go into the pond lab with 4 seconds of air left. Then I went out and got all 3 of the breakers, which I now had access to the entire pond lab. Inside the pond lab, I ran past every single enemy, grabbed a bunch of muscle sprouts with smoothies later on, and I got the last super disc and super chip. Then to finalize the pond lab, I found this little hidden entrance. I hit this button on this computer, which opened up the stump lab in the upper yard, and then I went back to Burgle and gave him back the super chip, and then duplicated just a few more items. I went ahead and crafted myself the oven and made myself some spicy globs, as well as the Broomella BLT. Then I upgraded one of my weapons down the spicy path, and then I made a bunch of smoothies. As I was prepping for you guessed it, the hedge Broomella boss fight, and this boss fight was relatively easy because I had a spicy and slashing weapon, which is what she's both weak to, so this was like I knocked this fight out of the park. And she also gave me just enough parts for the next boss fight, and I decided just to go and grab all the milk molds in the lower yard. Back home, I cooked up some mint globs and some salt globs, and then I crafted one of my black ant swords down the mint path, and then another one down the salty path. I went over to the full-size scabby, chucked in the replacement fuse, and turned it on, meaning I now had access to the undershed, and blocking my path were some mosquitoes. God save me. God should save me once more because there was a black widow blocking my way, which I mean I can just run past, but I decided to kill her and she dropped me 1 black widow fang and a spider chunk. That is terrible. But as I say, we keep moving forward and we go into the undershed lab and get tier 2 of Natural Explorer. And then went ahead and ate this aphid and got prepped for the next boss fight, the Mant boss fight. One of my favorite boss fights in the entire game, just for the soundtrack. The boss kind of sucks to be honest, but who cares? This boss was relatively easy anyway. Killing the boss meant that we could now save Wendell, and I went inside this fridge and you couldn't steal anything because I couldn't use any of it. Next up on my list was to break down some wasp hives, as I was now needing to fight the wasp queen. So I broke 1 wasp hive, then I broke a second wasp hive. The wasp hive next to it was near the stump lab, so I went inside of it, got the mantis boss recipe, and then I chopped down the 3rd wasp hive, meaning the wasp hive was now disturbed. I went back home and prepped up for the mantis boss fight, upgrade my weapons and gear just a little bit more. And then, of course, it was time for the mantis boss fight. Now this boss fight is relatively easy now that I know how to fight it one-on-one, but I didn't have a lot of smoothies that I wanted to burn against this boss fight, but I kept my cool and I did decently well, I think. After killing the mantis, I then deposited the ingredients inside the jar of Matic, and then I went ahead and killed all the orc fire ant workers that were destroying the mixer modules. Over inside the Moldor castle, I went ahead and got the infected Broomella boss recipe, and then I decided to fight Director Schmechter. Now I didn't even craft a sour weapon in this playthrough, so I thought this fight was going to go really hard, but to my surprise, no casualties, and he went down. It did take a little bit longer than I thought, but it was quite easy. And killing him gives us a good ending to the game and the corporate kickback mutation, a needed mutation for the infected Broodmother. Went back home, made the Wasp Queen boss recipe, and then prepped for the fight. And then my chat night, yes, I was live streaming this, we're talking about this web sack in this wasp hive here, which is really strange. I don't know why there's a web sack in here. Move out of the way, web sack. It's time for the Wasp Queen boss fight. And this boss fight, now, it's advised to have a ranged weapon, and I didn't have a ranged weapon, and I'm using a tier 2 weapon. I was very rusty in this fight, because I had like a week break of not playing Grounded, so this is why the video took a little bit longer to make. And even though I was very rusty in this fight, when the wasp drones came out, it was at a stalemate with the health bar, but I decided to full send it and took her out. I drank a little bit more smoothies than I should have, but I killed her anyway. What a stupid boss fight this is. All the bosses have now been killed, and there's now 1 boss left to go. The hardest one from all, the infected Broodmother. Me and the infected Broodmother go way back. I fought her so much that I nailed phase 1 and phase 2. These phases are stupidly easy, and phase 3 was quite easy as well. I almost killed her, but then she did this stupid bomb attack twice and caught me with my pants down, and I died. My first time I've ever died in a boss fight in like 8 challenge runs. It's crazy. But I never backed down and I never give up. Phase 1 was easy, and the same to be said with phase 2. Easiest phases in the entire game. Not really. But then phase 3 came around and I was prepared, killing her on her 3rd phase, and that was it. GG, I guess. But the hardest challenge was not over, because as tradition, we need to do a mixer, and oh boy, was that thing hard. Nah, it was relatively easy. I don't know why I do this. I don't even use the guard dog mutation. It's just become a habit now. And then went ahead and used the mushroom bricks that the game gives me to do the final defense, and if you know me, my final defenses are stupidly minimalistic. I make it hard for myself, but I always like a challenge. Okay, I say I like a challenge, but I don't want a stupidly hard challenge where the bugs split up from where they usually go that I'm used to, so I had to restart this, I'm sorry. So on my second attempt, I used the Mum Jeans mutation to help me just like distract the enemies while I was trying to defend, and it worked. I completed the final defense with barely to no casualties at all. And then went ahead and collected the field and beginning cell, then ran all the way back home to the spacer, put in the field and beginning cell, and smacked Wendell in the head and went home completing the challenge. Next time, ChatGPT, you need to give me a much harder challenge. And that's the end of the challenge. Finished the yard in 11 days, actually pretty sure. I died probably like, I think it was 7 times possibly. I don't really remember. Less than 1,000 perfect blocks this time, which I'm quite surprised about. And this is all streamed live on my YouTube. I don't have a YouTube schedule right now, but I'll have one in the future. I'll see what I can do. And if you guys would like to see me try a challenge run of yours, comment them down below and I'll add them to a wheel. I haven't been doing the wheel recently because I've just been doing different challenges that I've been wanting to do myself. So the next challenge run video will be a wheel challenge. And once again, it will be recorded live, so please keep an eye on that one. Once again, I appreciate you all for the support and the subs recently. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the live stream or the next video.